Today, my guest is Rachael Roberts, and Rachael is in the UK, and she is going to be talking with us about sustainable fashion, which is very exciting. It is not something that we've really talked about on this podcast before. So, how are you today, Rachael? Thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, I'm Jacob. Thanks. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yay. And so you are so sustainable fashion. I saw you sent me pictures, and it looks like they look very comfortable. Like you've got some bags and you've got some
Thank
t-shirts
you.
and um so I tell me about sustainable fashion and why.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually wearing one of them today. This is one of the first ones that I designed because I came up with this kind of slogan I really liked: it swim seas, plant trees, and save bees. And I thought that kind of just like sums it up a little bit. I was like, yeah, no, I need that in a t-shirt. And that's kind of how it, in a way, it kind of happened in this, I don't even mean this in a pun way, but in an organic way, because I love clothes. I have so much clothes, and I get like 90% of my stuff usually was like from a charity shop and stuff like this. And I may have been called a hoarder in the past with people who lived with me because I love fashion and I love clothes, but I also love the environment. And I always try to be, especially, as I've gotten older and everything and learned more about it, I've tried to be, and I do try to be as sustainable in my everyday living as I possibly can be. But then I started to think about more of the choices that I was making, the ones that you make without even thinking about it. Like going to buy a coffee and being like, hang on a minute, is this actually going to buy this? And it can be overwhelming for people.
Hmm.
And that's for me was kind of like almost like a point of anger for me. Because I was like, we as, everyday people are being pushed into these scenarios where we're being like guilt tripped and having to make these decisions when really we live in this consumerist, unsustainable society that we all need to navigate. And there's going to be decisions for us that are going to be really hard for us to make for the alternative. And the fact that sustainable items are not always the cheapest, they often to be
Hmm.
more the expensive side of things. And I haven't always been in the scenario in my life where as much as I may want to, my heart's in it, I want to buy the sustainable item. I want to buy the one for many reasons. It's going to last me for longer, but I just don't have the finances. It's like the whole shoe, the whole cheap pair of shoes. You buy the cheap pair of shoes and you have to buy it. That was literally me when like I was in my early 20s and I was literally buying a new pair of shoes every single winter, and they were breaking, whatever else, because I couldn't afford to spend the money on the big one. But I digress. And it basically with clothes, I wanted to buy sustainable fashion and I just couldn't afford what was out there. I just
Hmm.
thought this is really, as everyday people being pushed in these scenarios, guilt tripped, and even like seeing infighting with each other of guilt tripping people for using a certain kind of straw or not. And it's just frustrating for me because I'm like, I understand where you're coming from, but we need to not be turning on each other. We need to
Hmm.
not be fighting with each other about this. We all have our own remnants, and for whatever reasons we can, whether it be affordability, whether it be practicality, whatever it may be, we all have our limits and what we can and can't buy, can and can't access that is or isn't sustainable. But
Right.
fashion for me was really, I just saw this gap. I saw it just become this niche thing, sustainable fashion and eco-friendly clothes, where it was really expensive. I remember going into a store and it was a black strappy top, something I'd probably wear underneath a t-shirt or something, and it was £60. And this was like still a few years ago, mine. So it'd be even more expensive now. And I was
Right.
literally just like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, no wonder. I'm like so excited to go into this like sustainable fashion shop, like, yay. And I go in, and this is just one of the cheaper items in there. And I was just
Right.
like, you know what? No wonder. This is why. And I just kind of decided then, I was like, this is what I need to, this is what I can control ish. This is what I can harness and try to do. And plus, to be honest, I didn't want just a plain strappy top. I wanted ones with like funky patterns. So I
Yeah.
essentially made the business that I wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, it's so true. And I'm sure that you looked at that black strappy
Mm.
thing because it was the smallest and you were thinking, I could maybe even afford that. And
Yeah,
then
I'm
to
literally
be
looking for the
60
cheapest one.
pounds, you're like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's a bit ridiculous. And I didn't want to, this was a few years ago when it was just first starting really to come out sustainable fashion, because it's not really been sustainability and general sustainable items. They've got a wonderful movement right now where we're getting more and more items, everyday items as well, being made in sustainable materials, and I am here for it. I love it. But fashion's still, we're not where we should be. We're not where we need to be. And these big brands putting recycled material labels on their thing, then you go look at it and it's like 5% recycle. You're like,
and it's wrapped in this big plastic wrapper.
This is the thing. This is the thing. You're just there like, oh, like I so want to believe that you're
so
doing this
close.
in genuineness, but like I kind of feeling like you're just loving that PR just a little bit. But this is the thing. There is another way to do it. But I think like one of the things for me is that this needs to be able to reach people, and for that it needs to be affordable. So that's why I cap my prices to like, they're all around £20 or less. For like a t-shirt, they're like 15 to 20 pounds. Some of a jumper, some will go up to about 30. And because of course through the supply chain, everyone is paid ethically. We have organic cotton and we have plastic-free packaging. And so, I understand as well that not all of that comes on the cheaper side. I would even like to make them even cheaper again, and we'll see how this goes, throughout the years, and maybe we'll be able to do that, because I just feel like things will become cheaper when they're more normalized and when they're more out there. And this is what I want. And the last thing I want is to have like a monopoly on sustainable fact. Like I want this to be the norm. If we can find a way to do this, we know a way to do this, so why don't we?
Right.
We have a way to be able to create this in a better way. So I feel like we're past the time where people would argue and say, oh, but we just can't because it's like just done this way. It's like, well, even if it is just done this way, doesn't mean that it should be done that way.
Stop doing it that way.
Yeah, exactly. We're past excuses. We have the technology. We have the ability.
We know what we're doing.
We know what we're doing. Exactly. Like where I feel like we are so gone past the point of just accepting the things the way they were, and accepting everything needs to be wrapped in this like double wrapped in this plastic packaging, and whatever it may be, we're done. Plus we understand now, we understand fully what we are doing to our planet. And I just feel like where we can make those amendments, if you can afford to spend £20 on the t-shirt and get an organic one as well, which is better for your skin and better for everything, and if you can do that rather than going to a store that is going to be £5, but also are those people actually paid correctly if you've paid £5 for that t-shirt?
Right.
Like we have the ability to make those amendments, wherever it may be. I feel like that's where our consumer power comes in. Like we can't allow for the infighting and the blaming each other or being allowed to be blamed, because of course like oil companies and everyone else, they do have the bigger footprint, they do have the bigger impact, but then we do still have power as individuals, we do still have power collectively, we do still have power as the consumers, and we can choose basically where the market's going to go with that power.
Right. Vote with your wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Vote with your wallet kind of thing. And we saw that with plastic straws. Look how everyone turned against that, and like how businesses, whether they chose to, whether they were forced to, either way, they innovated, they changed, they got the paper straws, or they found alternatives. And that is like just a little example of consumer power and how actually it was doable all along.
Right. So is that the straws specifically, Rachael, has that been done away with in the UK? Because it is still a thing in the US.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, in the UK, yeah, you struggle to find a plastic straw in the UK now. They're all paper
amazing.
Ones.
I mean, I know that the paper ones and the steel ones are available if you purchase them. Basically, if you go to a restaurant, they're going to put a straw in your drink unless you say beforehand, no straw, please. And now I just learned, and this is like me being completely oblivious, but like I just learned that receipts are not recyclable or compostable because of the thermal paper.
Learned that like a year ago. Yeah. And
everyone still gives you receipts.
I know. Yeah. They do ask you a lot of the time, which is good. And I always say no. I'm like, I'm not going to do anything with it anyway.
Right. But that, at the same time, like they're still printing it.
Yeah.
So often it's a copy and they're like, do you want that? And you say no. And then they throw it away because that it's just, it just seems to be like technology has come so far and everyone does banking online. So just send it or don't send it. I'm just like, I
Yeah.
don't want a paper trail when
Yeah.
when I'm buying something at the store. Like, I don't want the paper trail. I don't want someone to see that I bought a donut. I don't want someone to
Yeah.
see that whatever. But and it's not so much
Yeah.
about balancing checkbooks. It probably should be more, but I'm just like,
Mm.
I don't need the paper. And now that I
Yeah.
know this, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't realize I'd been putting them in the paper recycling for so long. And
Same.
then somebody told me like a year or so ago that actually they got like a thin coat of plastic on their note. I'm like, why
Oh
would
my
you make them
gosh.
like that? Why would you put it's paper.
Find a different way.
Why?
If you have to print something, make it like reusable
Yeah.
or recyclable or something. Like, stop doing that.
Yeah. You start to realize, you start to look at all these things and you're like, why are you doing that? Like, why is this needed? Or like the worst one that really always gets me when you see fruit or something like oranges, the kind of fruit
Wrapped
that
in
has its
plastic.
own skin. And then they wrap
That
it
you're
in, and I'm
gonna
just
wash
like,
anyway.
yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? And then they got the apples, which you eat the skin of, and they're all loose. And I'm like, who did this?
Right?
Like, why was this the decision you made? If you were even going to put plastic, I don't know. And we can laugh about it, it really is. It's just like,
I
who's
agree.
deciding this? Who thought,
Totally.
you know what I'm going to do today? Oranges need an extra layer. Yeah, it's just like, no, they don't.
Right. Well, and especially
Yeah.
oranges, which you're just gonna peel.
Yeah.
You're
It's
not
like,
even
well,
gonna eat that.
you're not even touching the skin anyway. Like, oh, honestly, when you
Yeah.
start to see it everywhere as well, it's like basically you can't unsee it. Once you start to see this kind of, you can't unsee it, and you notice it in everything. So
Right.
that's why I do understand. Well, like, we guilt trip ourselves. I definitely guilt trip I get guilty from like forgetting to bring my reusable coffee cup, or I've got a reusable lid. So because a lot of the coffee cups now in a lot of places in the UK will actually be compostable, but it's a plastic lid. So I've got like a silicone lid, and then I'd be kicking myself if I forgot to bring it or something like that. And like it's a delicate balance, because like at the same time, obviously understand the guilt. It's not terrible. It depends what you do with it. But then at the same time, like, it's when it starts turning into guilt tripping each other and like the judgment on each other of, you should
Right.
be doing this, you should be doing that. When the
Right.
reality is that it's not
As if
always
the guilt that we're putting on
available.
ourselves isn't enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like as if like making like
And
ourselves
it's
feel
not
better
gonna
isn't
make you
good
feel
enough.
better to make someone else feel bad.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we need to come together on it a bit more, on everything really. But we definitely need to come together a bit more on sustainability and this sustainability movement, instead of kind of hating on somebody for not using something that is, or using something that is plastic. It's like we need to recognize that we are in this unsustainable society, and it's kind of, what do we do from there. And for me, it's never about the infighting. It's okay, what can we change? What can we
Right.
change in the businesses? What can we change in our governments? What can we change just in our everyday society, in our stores, in our shops? Like the way that you shop, and like instead of having a plastic bag, is there an alternative for this? Like little things, but they are the things that actually build up together. But then even recognizing that it's not even always a choice that everybody gets to have. Because if
Hmm.
you're like a single parent and you've got 3 kids and you're working, understandably don't have time to be going down to a farmer's market. And in the UK, farmers markets they're quite expensive.
Yeah.
So it's things like that are not always doable for everybody. But for me, it's about where for you as an individual is it doable? Where is it that you can actually make a change on? Because I've seen it before, and it just always just saddens me when people, they get so overwhelmed, and then they're like, no, 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 I can't do any of it. Or like they'll say, oh no, it's
Right.
hypocritical because this protester is protesting against the treatment of the environment, but they also got here in a vehicle that used up things in the environment. It's kind of like, if this is the kind of this isn't even a dialogue, but if this is what you attempt to have, then we're going nowhere.
Right.
No one's going anywhere.
Right. We're just
Like,
finding fault in everything, and there are no
yeah,
solutions being made and no progress. I know.
yeah,
It's so hard to like I don't go to my farmer's market very often because it's Saturday morning, and Saturday is my errand day, and I have, I volunteer in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
if I were to go, it would be toward the very end. All the good stuff is taken, and
Yeah.
it's so chaotic, and I would just be running in and running out, and there's just no enjoyment. So, a lot of my favorite farms have stands at their places, and so I'll just go visit them when it's possible. But I struggled a lot with the plastic during the pandemic. Like, we in Maine, at least, we had banned single-use plastic from, like, no one could use that. Like, styrofoam, the single-use plastic bags, Maine was not having that. But then it was right before the pandemic, and then they were like, well, everything needs to be,
Yeah.
separate and sterile. And so then everyone was putting things in plastic again. It was so awful. And so even still, like, I go to the farmer's market and they've got everything bagged up in plastic, and I'm just like, oh, like,
Yeah.
and I think what you said about not being able to unsee, that's what's, like, in me. Like, the more I'm learning, I'm like, I can't ignore that.
Yeah.
And that's, but at the same time, also to your point, we need to meet people where they're at and work together to come to a solution. Like, not put expectations on people that they're not able to do.
Yeah.
That single mom with 3 kids, like, we can't expect her to, save the world, but she can teach her kids, that plastic is bad, or, what, or they can start gardening or something. Like, we need to, like you said, stop blaming people, stop putting expectations. Like, people are where they are. We need to move forward as a world, as a country, as a state, as a, and just work together and not work against each other. And I know I don't know about the UK and other countries, but, like, in the US, we're very divided. There are people that are completely denying climate change, and they just don't understand why some of us are so like hyped up about it. Like, and that's also hard, because there's nothing, they're not going to help. But people can only do what they can do. I'm just trying to help people to see that there are ways, there are small ways to be sustainable.
I know, and that's amazing though, because sometimes as well, you don't know even where to look or where to start with it, or what's going to be manageable for you, what's going to be doable for you. And as you kind of progress in it, then it'll become more open to you, and you'll learn different ways, but also just making it accessible for people, making it affordable, making it out there. Because right now, the main brands that we have for, like, I'd say, like, pretty much anything are the ones who are not always going to be the most sustainable. And then it tends to be the smaller businesses, or, like, sometimes who are doing things sustainably just by nature to save on resources and things like that, kind of like almost like accidental sustainability,
right?
Kind of how, like, my mom, my grandma used to do. I mean, at the house that I grew up in, you didn't waste food. Like, it's ingrained in me, no food is wasted. You don't even eat, it's dinner tomorrow, it's lunch, like, you're eating it, kind of thing. And my grandma always said that everything had a second use, because she grew up in the war, and she was a pretty much single parent with 2 kids, and she was never, it didn't come from money. So, like, her handbags, if her handbag broke, that became a belt, and things like this. Everything had, like, a second use, and it wasn't out of, and there's still, so many families, I still do it now naturally, because my grandma taught me, but, like, there's still so many families out there who it's not done with necessarily the environmental, I'm doing this for the environment. It's like, no, I'm doing this because I'm making something last, or, like, I can't afford to buy a new one, so I'm gonna, or, like, did you ever do the thing where, jeans, if they rip or something, turning them into shorts or anything like that? Like, the amount of times that when I was a kid, would turn clothes or toys into something else. And you look at it kind of as you get older, and you kind of see why, and you realize the fun games you made out of it, but also see that, like,
the value.
Like, it's the value in being able to, like, one of my favorite games ever that I used to play with my grandma is when we used to get, like, a big, and again, this made it feel like, because we weren't at least using it once, but, like, we get a big plastic bottle of because in America you call it soda, like fizzy drink or something like that.
Yeah.
And we used to, or like a milk bottle, and we used to in the kitchen put the lid on it just slightly, put it in the middle, and then you stamp on the thing and see how far you can push the lid with the air across the kitchen. And me and my grandma used to play this game and like have these competitions of who could you stamp it even really harder this time, push it even further. And it was like just this way of like turning it into something else and turning it into also a toy, also a game, kind of thing like that. I think even being able to just do things like that, like that's what I like to call like accidental sustainability, or like reusing a jar that you bought of sauce to put something else food in, which I still do like to this day. I carry my dog's food around, will be like an old pasta sauce jar or something like that. Like it doesn't always like have to come from I want to save the world place. It could even just help you out and like, hey, you're saving money. You're not buying a new plastic container to have to do that. I mean, part of the reason that I always shopped in charity shops is because it was cheaper.
Yeah.
And I got some of the best items out of it, which I still have even now.
Totally.
Yeah.
I was just having a conversation this morning with somebody because I have a jam business as well. And and I was telling him that I pick my own strawberries for the business. And he's like, you do that too? I'm like, dude, I am saving half the money. Like it costs me half as much. It is fun. It's a lot, but like I'm paying half. So it's not necessarily for the reason that it's, the big glorious reason that it sounds like. It's definitely important and it's part of it, but really I'm saving money because fruit is expensive.
Yeah.
But
it is actually, yeah. Especially
but
like when it goes off really quickly and you're like, no.
Right. I had a conversation on the podcast just a few weeks ago with Megan Doherty, and I remember having this conversation with her, and the podcast, the episode title is Celebrating the Extended Use of Things. So if you haven't listened to that, you'd probably really enjoy that, because she was saying we should start a movement because it is and make it cool to extend things, like to, oh my gosh, you've had that sweater for 20 years. Good for you. Not like that is so not in fashion.
And it's
right.
I've got so many clothes I've had for 10 years.
Right.
Well, actually, no, some. Not everything fits me from 10 years ago, but I've got some things from what does fit from 10 years ago, I have kept.
If it still fits, I still have it. Exactly. If it's not full of holes and it still fits, I still have it. You betcha. I think I love that idea, and I love that your grandmother taught you that. And turning the plastic bottle into a game is genius, because it also keeps you away from the TV. It's just it's endless fun, and it's not going to hurt anyone, and it's just making it last, which is
and we were able to, as kids, like scream and jump on something and stuff like that in like a safe, allowed kind of way.
Right.
Make a banging noise, and which is the kind of stuff that kids always want to do, but it was like it's safe and you're allowed to do it without you're not breaking anything.
Right.
So it was good.
Unless someone's recording a podcast episode, that's really fun. But that's really great that she taught you that. I mean, it's so cool that you got to be a kid and be silly and, do that stuff, and at the same time learn. That's pretty genius.
Yeah.
That is like all-in-one shopping.
But it was like accidental teaching me about sustainability and using things again, and just how we would turn everything into, so nothing was ever broken. It kind of just transformed into something else. If we couldn't fix it, it became something else. And for me, that is what sustainability is. It's about longevity. It's about making things to last. It's about something lasting, whether you've turned it into something else, whether it's still the same item that it was to begin with. It's about having something that it's not going to be just thrown away. It's not going to just be broken and then be cast aside. It's like, no, this can still have life. We don't have to be replacing every single thing. It's like, what items do we need? How do we take care of them? How do we make them last? How can we, if they do break, what else can we turn it into? Because not everything needs to just straight away get thrown away. Even with clothes, if I grow out of clothes or whatever it may be, they go to a friend or they go to a charity shop and stuff like that. Like, again, it doesn't have to be just, we used to live with a few years ago, and one of my housemates wanted to throw away in the bin this coat because the button had broken. And I was like, no. And I took it off her and I fixed the button and gave it
Good
back.
as new.
The button was broken. It was a button. And then she ended up just giving me the coat anyway. I was like, okay, thank you. It was a nice coat. But I was just like, you can't, and we live not that far away from charity shops either. I was like,
Right.
no.
It's just right. It's the mindset. Like that's where her thought was. Like I just can't.
Yeah.
It's broken. I can't keep that.
Yeah.
But thank goodness you were there to save it.
Yeah. And it ended up being a nice coat for me in the end. I was
And
like, oh, well, I'll have it.
yes, and he got a coat. Right.
Yeah.
I think it's so honorable to just I feel like getting to that mindset of like extending things is, I think, sharing that message and getting that to people it might be tricky, but I think it's possible, because I think, I'm hoping that people are getting past the fast fashion and the clothing fads and stuff like that. And I mean, I can't even remember the last time I heard about that. I remember it used to be like the color of the year is purple or whatever. And I'm like, so
or like
what?
it would
Now
change
people
like
are
every month, and you're just like, nobody even has the resources to be
right.
keeping up with this, and we shouldn't be made to feel all the time and everything else. And we shouldn't be made to feel like we should,
Right.
like that in and of itself, rejecting it for whatever your reasons may be, I think is a brilliant and wonderful style of rebellion. It's like the good rebel, the good rebellion.
Yes.
Like, no, not going to do that.
Yes.
I have a beautiful t-shirt, a comfy jumper, and 2 jackets, or whatever it may be. I do not need to buy a new one every 2 weeks because this magazine says so.
Yes, a good rebel. Ooh, I like that.
I have a top that says "Good Rebel." Sneaky plug, throw in.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So what is it? So what are you actually making, Rachael?
So they're mainly t-shirts, and I put in either like a funky design or slogan as such. They are based into whether like a typical male shape or typical female shape, but you can get them kind of for both as well. I definitely love them if I want, because sometimes I love a good baggy t-shirt with like some kind of shorts and stuff like that. So I usually buy those ones. And we have trackies as well. I have like a basics range, which is just like plain gray, black or white t-shirt or trackies, because sometimes you just want, just one of them. They're nice to have. Right. And we have gray beanie hats, because I love a good beanie hat every single winter, and then sometimes through the spring as well. I will still have a good beanie hat, and the gray is just like, again, it's just very classic. It's comfy, goes with everything. We have some hoodies, we have some jumpers, and that's the kind of style that we have at the moment, because it's kind of very much kind of where you can wear, I mean, I even wear like some of them to the office and stuff as well. I put like a t-shirt under, then I put a suit jacket over, or like I put it with jeans. This one I've tied like in the middle at the moment and stuff like this. So it depends how you want to style it. I sometimes, if I got the baggy t-shirt, I'll do the whole like, because I'm so cool, put the shirt up kind of things, and just see kind of like different ways you want to wear them. But it's very much because we're so, we love nature. It's all inspired by nature. So it's kind of mainly those kind of designs, that and feminism. It kind of naturally went down those 2 routes, because that's kind of very come out of me, where it kind of went down those 2 routes. And it's very, the brand that I'm trying to build out of it is very mountain loving and nature loving. And basically, if you're into that kind of thing and you love a good comfy organic t-shirt with a cool slogan on it, or just a beautiful subtle little pattern, then come say hi. Come check him out.
Say hi. Yeah. And I love the idea of wearing just like a classic black or gray t-shirt under a suit jacket, because then, you still look dressy, but you feel better wearing. I just feel better when I'm wearing a t-shirt. If I'm dressed up, I feel
I know what you mean.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, they're just comfier, and they're always like I feel like they're always something good to have, because you can wear them under something, you can wear them over it as well. With it being the organic cotton, it is actually not just nicer for the environment and nicer for the farmers who are around there. And I think because with it being no pesticides, you can actually grow food around and things as well. But it is actually better for your skin being organic as well. It's better when you're washing it and everything, because you're not putting those chemicals back through the washing machine, back through the water into the environment as well. So I feel there is so many good things about it. And after I found like the shout out to 𝗤𝗏, our manufacturers who I work with, after I found them and found the way to doing it, I'm just kind of like, why is not everyone doing this?
Mm.
Why is not everyone finding a way to do this? Why is not, because we use renewable energy in the factories, by the factories. We have what is called a closed water loop system. So all the ink is a water-based dye. And then that comes, and it's basically, the cotton is founded in northern India, and there's a lot of monsoon weather there. If you've never been there, it's beautiful. And basically it collects a lot in the rivers, which feeds into, and basically goes through to the t-shirts, makes a dye, and then you can put it back around. It's refiltered and can go back around again. Once it's refiltered, you can actually drink from the water as well. That is how pure it is. And it's like, when you find, like, when you can see that there are ways that we can do this, and like even down to the plastic free packaging, it's literally just like,
Why are we
I just,
polluting the rivers and killing people?
yeah, like, why are we doing it any other way when
Right.
we clearly have, it's not even that hard. It's mainly done through a lot of technology. Like, everything is print on demand, so it's all, we don't have any physical stores, it's all online. But as soon as you put your order, it goes straight through, and then it gets printed as you go. So there's no oh, I've printed 100 t-shirts and I've only sold 50 of them, got to get rid of the other 50. Like, no, like, whatever is printed is what is needed. It's what has already been purchased. So
Gotcha.
that, saves on costs, but it also saves the environment as well. And
Right.
again, it's like, why don't we do this? Or even just like when you go into stores and you see so many clothes on the sales rack or so many getting thrown away, and you're just kind of like, can you not measure the numbers and just order less? Like,
Right.
but
Right.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. And so what you were talking about the ink and the closed water system, which is so cool. How do you do if the ink washes into the water, how does the ink filter out so that you can reuse the water? I mean, what kind of filter are you using? I'm so curious about that.
I should totally know the name of the filter, the machine itself. Basically, it goes through filtered machines and then through there, because the water is only used from natural rainwater and things like that anyway. And because the ink is actually water based, it's not too much of a heavy system, really, because it's not really high. Everything's made from natural materials. So, and no pesticides and things like that. So it hasn't had the really terrible chemicals put in to begin with. And so then it makes the filtering process quicker, and it makes it a lot easier to do. And that's how you can literally turn it back into drinkable water and then put it back onto the crops and put it back into, and that just saves on water, saves on time, saves on money.
Right. And so, Rachel, you said you shouted out somebody, and what, can you say that again?
Oh, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃.
𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃?
Yeah, 𝗏𝗏𝗃. I'll have to send you the link. They're really cool. They're manufacturers who I use.
Okay. Awesome. Yes, please. And so they're making the shirts and stuff?
Yeah, they're the ones who will like do the physical printing of them and everything. Yeah.
Okay. And where are they out of?
They get the cotton from northern India, and then we have a factory on the Isle of Wight in the UK. Which was mad. When I found them, I didn't even realize they were in the UK. I've been trying to find a way to be able, because I knew that I wanted, I mean, since I was a kid, I used to design t-shirts and draw out patterns of, like, in my notebooks at school and stuff like that, and be drawing like, and all these different patterns that I liked and everything. And I knew it was kind of always subconscious that, oh, I do want to do this one day, or I'll do that one day, and then I realized I want it to be sustainable. There's no way that I'm going to feel okay about, I mean, for me anyway, there's no way that I was going to be able to create a business and it not to be as ethical and as sustainable as it could possibly be. So when I literally stumbled across them and researched into them to do my own checking and everything, and found that they were actually had a factory based in the UK, I was just like, I was almost like, what? Like, how did I miss this? And it's not even that far from where I'm based either. So I was just like, wow, okay.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
You can actually, even when the t-shirts have been too worn out or holes in them and you don't want to turn them into something else, there's actually, all of them come with a QR code, and you can scan that and get a code, and then you can send it back to the factory. If it's in the UK, you can do it for free, and then it just gets turned into another t-shirt.
Wow. So they can take t-shirt scraps and create another t-shirt.
Yeah, as long as it's made from those materials, as long as it's from there and made from those materials and everything, then you can literally send it back, and then it will just get shredded, repurposed, and re-dyed and put into a new design.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, it's
Oh my
pretty awesome.
gosh. That's a game changer.
Right? This is what I mean. I'm like, and it's doable. It's so doable, you know? So I just feel like when we have these are bigger brands who, can afford to do these kind of things and everything. It's like, I know that obviously organic cotton and paying your workers costs like a little bit more, but it's like, well, we have the ability. I feel like you're running out of excuses not to. If you're a brand who doesn't do that, it just kind of, it's a bit archaic, if anything. Just, oh, we've always done it this way, so we'll do it that way. It's like, but it's the system that you're doing it actually clearly is broken, and it does need fixing, and there is better ways to do it. And I just, honest to God, I want all clothes in the world to be made in a sustainable, ethical way, and everybody to pay correctly during it. Like,
Yeah.
we have the ability to do it. I'm honestly just like, it baffles me when they don't, particularly if you're a new business starting, new business in anything. If you're creating a new product, I feel like we're at this beautiful time at the moment where consumers are actually wanting more ethical products, but
Right.
also we have the know-how and we have the technology to create them. So if
Right.
you're going to be creating any kind of item at the moment now, if you do not have strong green policies and blue policies, if you do not have, to the best of your ability, how to make this sustainably, I feel like your business is not sustainable.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you totally have a leg up when it comes to fashion because there are people that want that.
Mm,
We just need more people that want that to pressure the bigger companies.
yeah.
I'm surprised, just hearing about this that there aren't like younger people that are coming into those bigger companies and saying this is so wrong. We need
Mm,
to change this. Or maybe they're just beaten down and said, shh, we're making really good money.
yeah. I think that's what it is. I think people are, they're used to the way things are, and they just don't want to question every too much time, or they want the money or whatever it may be, and it's just kind of,
Right. It
it's
would
just
cost too
sad more
much
than
to change
anything.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it costs too much to change it. And it's like, to be honest, like, I find it just even just not smart business at all. And I'm like, you do realize that the planet dying impacts all of us, and there will not be any planet left to sell your items on. Like,
Right.
like, if we don't do something, like, you're gonna have even less money.
Right.
Like, come on.
Right. Oh
Mm,
gosh, it's so tricky. It's so tricky and it's infuriating really to think about,
yeah,
those bigger companies that are doing things that they know are wrong.
yeah.
And
Particularly when
we
they put
know
like
they're wrong,
5%
but
recycled. Yeah.
right. But then that, the niche items that are really good are so expensive. It is really frustrating.
Yeah, yeah.
So
This is
I'm
the
glad that
thing.
you're doing that.
Thanks. We just want to get the word out there and want everyone to be able to have sustainable fashion, even if you can't afford, bras and everything. If I mean, the UK right now, we're in a cost of living crisis, and inflation and prices are just going up and up. And so that part of it is always going to, I mean, for any business, I guess it's going to be difficult when, you can kind of understand why people don't have the money to do that right now. But this is the kind of thing. It's like, if you do have the ability, or even if you're one of those companies who are polluting the environment and can definitely afford to do things differently, it's like, you are the ones who are going to be the game changers. And sometimes we need to help each other, because sometimes people aren't going to be able to buy everything sustainably because they can't access it, or because they can't afford it, or whatever it may be. But if you're in a position where you are able to, like, for the collective, but also for yourselves as an individual, it'll
Right.
be better for you and society to use the abilities and the strengths that we have.
Right. I wonder, I mean, I don't follow the news at all, but wouldn't it be so cool if instead of like a protest, like put it to the big companies and be like, wouldn't you rather be part of like game changing, saving the world,
Mm,
or do you want to continue poisoning everything? Like
mm,
it seems like a no-brainer. But and
yeah,
I know that it's probably a financial thing that they want to keep making money, but they have to have consciences.
mm.
Like,
There has to be people behind it.
But like, do you want to be part of progress, or do you want to keep like kicking that can down the road because it's easier? I mean, is it
Yeah.
easier? Because the water's unsafe.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be a simple thing because people do have consciences to just
Yeah.
say that.
You'd hope. You'd hope. But yeah, I feel like some people, they feel so far removed from the impacts of it, or they feel so far removed, like, oh, but it just, oh, I'll be fine, oh, it doesn't so much impact me, or I can afford, sorry if somebody's coming out with my dogs. But yeah, they feel so not involved, so they're like, it doesn't impact me, doesn't affect me, I don't care. Or like, one of my actual things that I hate, and people say it well-meaningly, they mean it well-meaningly, but they'll say things like, oh, help the environment for our kids, and I'm just like, ooh, like I know it's well-meaning, but the thing is, in certain parts of the world even more so, it's not the kids, it's the parents have already been impacted, and the grandparents have actually already been impacted, and over here in the West too, people are impacted.
Yeah.
It's not about the kids. I mean, it is, but you know what I mean, it's not about like, oh, in the future, it's about the people who are like, even here right now, it's impacting even right now.
Right. We can make
And
changes
I feel
right
like it
now that
removes
would
them too much.
affect
Yeah.
things now.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just going to have to open the door. I've just realized that I've locked him out. That's why he's knocking on the door. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm glad that you are able to edit. So I'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I can't do the automatic thing. I'm sorry. I'm still in the bathroom. Sorry. I locked it automatically. I thought I heard Goldie go, and I thought, oh, why is that?
That's why she was
and then I
barking.
realized, oh, you want to come here?
Good girl, Goldie.
Hello. Hello, Dad. Hello,
Good girl.
Daddy's just come home. He's more fun.
Right? Oh gosh. That is such a difficult subject because it seems so simple. I mean, and that's what makes it so difficult, that like you were saying, these people are probably in their 42nd floor office, looking above everything and not thinking about how it's affecting people right now.
Yeah.
And
it's
it
like
just
with the cost of living crisis we have here, there's so many families who have and are suffering, particularly during the winter, because of course the UK, it gets cold here, and when people were not able to afford to heat their homes. And I thought it was real, just kind of when the government tried to make a environmental case for it, like, oh, but you'll be helping the environment as well, so it's okay. It's like, people are freezing inside their homes because they can't afford
stop thinking
to heat them. Stop trying to be like, oh, it's not. And then you've got like people who are on the richer end, and certain leaders who spend more money heating their swimming pools than people can afford for their own homes. And it's like, you don't understand. You're not seeing it. You're choosing not to see it.
Right.
And I find that a lot with the environment in general. I feel people are either just choosing not to see it, or they live such a privileged, far removed from reality life that I would pity living like that. I would want to live like that.
Right.
Like, I do not want to live in a bubble.
Right. It's the same in the US. It's really, unfortunately, it's not any different. I mean, I think, and like you were saying, people are so far removed that they choose not to see, because I think we are also in a cost of living crisis, but people aren't saying that. Like, the average wage is not able to afford what the average like rent is. So people are working 2 and 3 jobs to do that. But people can't, it's not sustainable. People just can't do that forever. And it's just, and I think people are just in denial that it is as bad as it is.
And I think that's part of the overwhelm of the environment, isn't it? I see it a lot in particularly in certain areas where people are struggling to get jobs, and they're struggling in life anyway. So then when somebody brings on something like the environment, it seems like such a big topic, and I've already got so much going on in my head as it is, which I can sympathize with. I don't like I
Sure.
understand it, but at the same time, it's like this is why I feel like we need to come together as a collective and work together. Like if this person is really struggling and they're not able to help, then okay, could this person over here help instead? Because that's what like we all should be. It
Right.
sounds so like, but it's like we are like a team. We're community is a team. A
Absolutely.
country should be acting as a team.
Pool our
Like
skills and talents and
exactly. And it's all
and
our world. It
yeah.
impacts all of us. Like we can complain about, and I understand it, definitely complain about like certain companies doing oil spills and such. But at the same
Ahem.
time, like we are all in this world working together, and we can't just say, I'm not going to do anything because this person is not doing anything there. It's like, that's not going to work. Like,
No.
not if we all want to survive. Like, it's just not going to work.
Right. Oh gosh. Um, whew. Wow, that's deep. It's so true. It's so true. I am with you 100%. But so, Rachel, I think you said it earlier. I think you said when you talked about what you think of the word sustainability, and you said longevity, right?
Yeah.
Did you have anything
Yeah.
else to add to that, or was that basically it?
I think longevity, I never know how to say that word, longevity or longevity.
I think it depends on where you are.
Longevity. Can't say that one. It's longevity, and it's just not within that really. It's just not throwing away things unnecessarily or even before trying to save it. Like what do we have that we can use and reuse again? I always joke with my technology, like I recently got a new laptop for work, and my boss had been saying to me for weeks that I could have a new laptop because mine was not working correctly. And I joked to him and I said, I ride my technology until it's on fire. Like until it completely dies, which
Right.
which it did. And was it a bit inconvenient on the day when it was like 10 a.m. on a Monday when it decided to break? A little bit. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad still that I rode it.
It's
I got a good extra month out of
it's
it.
true.
And
I
it's
mean,
still
it's so
fine.
conflicting because, it might be slowing down or whatever, but it's so hard to just like what we know what happens to that when it dies.
Yeah,
And it's
there's not really, yeah, like how could I save, how could I do something else with it? Or even just within that, like not purchasing unnecessarily. I try to be really strict with myself on this. So, whether it be like a pricing point or just a state with environmental sustainability point, there's so many reasons to do this. But I try to be really just, okay, what do I need? And particularly if I know that this is like, for whatever reason, a plastic item because there's a monopoly and I can't get it in a sustainable material. It's like, okay, when do I really need this? Not buying free of something when I only really need the one. And it seems like so simple, but you'd be surprised how we got so used to this consumerist, capitalist
right.
mindset of buying
Bulk
more and
purchasing.
purchasing more. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
try to be really strict myself and really ask, okay, am I going to use it? Did I use the last one? Do I really need a new one? Although in saying that, when I go to a charity shop and they've got two cute dresses, it's hard to say no there. But that's where I'll let myself kind of like have my yay kind of thing. If I'm in something like that, or if I'm shopping at a sustainable store, then I'm like, I can buy two. Then I'll do it.
Right.
But other than that, then I'm like, no, I'll rein it in.
Good for you. Wow. I love that. I do. I mean, I was telling you about the conversation I had with Megan earlier, and
Yeah.
I'm so on board with that. Like, let's celebrate the extended life of things. Let's celebrate
Yeah.
giving things another chance,
Yeah.
and repurposing and reusing. And I just think that the fast fashion and planned obsolescence is just it's so
Mm.
evil. It's
Yeah.
just so harmful to everything.
Yeah, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for the workers, it's bad for the people. It's not great for us when a lot of these fast fashion items you buy as well fall apart then because they're made out of cheap, terrible materials.
Right,
It's
right,
just, why are we doing this to ourselves? They're the ones
right.
who I used to buy the cheap pair of shoes on because again, at the time that's what I afforded. And yeah, I'm just realizing that I've just left my name thing at the bottom of this as Rachel DNA the entire time. I hope that's okay.
It's you didn't see mine before I changed it.
I didn't even change it. Didn't even think. I'm just seeing it now. Oh well.
And then so this has been really amazing, and I'm so excited to share this and just, share it wide and tell people that there's an option. If you care, there's an option, and to reach out to you. So how can people find you, Rachael, to support you, to purchase your products? What's the best way for people to find you, or ways?
Well, we are on social media. We are on Instagram. So our name is By Raw. It's my initials. I didn't mean to have an obscure name when I created, but it accidentally kind of happened. I wanted just Raw and Raw Star, but it was all taken something else. So By Raw, so BY, and then just RAR. So byraw.com is our website. And then we are on Instagram. It's just at By Raw, the little underscore underneath it, and the same on TikTok as well, if you just want to go check us out and see the photos and see a bit about us and see some beautiful nature shots. But straight to byraw.com if you want to go straight to seeing the clothes. And we also have a mermaid themed one as well, because I am obsessed with the ocean and I actually have a mermaid tail and everything. So I was like, okay, I've got to make a mermaid section. So
Yeah, you do.
yeah. We love like mountain vibes and everything, but we got to have the ocean in there too. It's, swim seas as well as planting trees and saving
Right.
trees.
Well, and the clothing made sustainably will take care of the seas and the
Yeah,
ocean.
exactly. The
Very
natural materials
important.
are not putting any, when you wash them, it's not taking any harmful, because they're not made from harmful chemicals. So it's not taking any of that into what you're washing or anything like that.
That's
Or if you
amazing.
go wear it, go swimming in.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And so tell me, I meant to ask this earlier, but so the organic clothing, what are the benefits for us other than knowing that we're doing good for the earth? So you said that it's better for our skin.
Mm. It's softer for your skin, and also because you're not having those chemicals, they're not going onto your skin either. Because clothes, particularly depending on the type of kind of material they use, but particularly made from synthetic materials, over time, over wear and over washing, those kind of that is embedded. It goes onto your skin. You're wearing it every single day as well. Whereas an organic one, it's made organically. It's made from water-based dyes. It's made from natural materials. You just know that even if you were to just go like this and have it inside your mouth kind of thing, you're not taking in anything that's harmful.
Okay. That's important. And I'm sorry I didn't
Yeah.
ask it earlier, but it was
No.
just on my mind. And I didn't want to neglect to ask. So, gosh, this is so I just love this. I just love this, and I'm so excited that you reached out to me. I'm going to put all this information in the show notes, but is there anything else that you want to add before we close up?
I would encourage people to think about what sustainable style means to them, and whether that means even just having one classic item, one t-shirt in their wardrobe that they can wear under or over things, under the suit jacket and the jumper with on its own, and that's made sustainably, or whether it means buying but then keeping those clothes for 20 years, or it means going to the charity shop, whatever it may be. I would encourage people to really think, what does sustainable style mean for you? It can mean all of these things. For me, it's all of those things.
Right.
But how do you make it happen in your life? And just to think about that.
Gotcha. Cool. All right, Rachael, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
I'm
you.
thrilled to be able to share this, and I hope that people are going to really grasp onto this. So I do need to ask, you keep saying we, so is it more than
Do you know, I say we as an automatic thing. It's actually me and Goldie. And my boyfriend works quote unquote as
right?
a wonderful photographer, and a couple of my friends who have modeled some of the t-shirts and things like that for me.
Gotcha. Okay. And then you have the production company.
Oh, T-Mill, of course. Yeah, they're great.
Okay. So it's
Yeah,
it's
I was
you
very lucky.
guys. It's just you guys.
Yeah,
That's really
yeah, pretty
cool.
much.
That's really
Yeah, I
cool.
guess we'll expand as we go. as we go. But right now, we've got a little unit of a team going on. I mean, I'm blessed that I have amazing manufacturers, and if I have any questions, I can just shoot over to them and everything. So that's really great. They're really supportive. And yeah, just really just trying to get the word out there at the moment.
Okay, cool. Happy to help with that.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you again. I am going to end this.